Halloween
forever.
Steven, my boy, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm okay, Fly Brian. What's up?
What's Fly Brian? What am I missing? Just a new cool nickname for me?
I mean, it just sounded like that's how you were coming in. You're going,
I say I was playing. Yeah, I had a little bit of a Doppler effect going on there. Hey, quick question for you, Steve. How do you follow Will Smith into a snowstorm? If you were tasked with following Will Smith, famed actor William Smith, into a snowstorm, how would you go about doing a thing like that?
a Will.I.am detector.
He's what? God damn it!
Because then it tells you snow. Will he is snow.
No, Will.I.am. That's the guy from That's the guy from Black Eyed Peas.
I know. It also works on him.
You follow the Fresh Prince.
Yeah.
Welcome, boys and girls, to a fucking, I guess this is a punishment episode of Halloween's Forever. I'm Brian.
I'm Steve.
Here we are, deep into the holiday season, Steve. It's officially, we're moving to the second week of December. Where's your holiday spirit at? In on the overall, holly jolly meter, Stephen, where's your holiday spirit at? 1 to 10.
Being that in my older years, it never exceeds like an 8. I'm like at a 5.5.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's good. Yeah, that's true. That's fair to say. You're not gonna. There's not going to be Micro Machines and G.I. Joes under the tree for me this year. I mean, there could be, and that's the sad thing. Is I'm an adult. I can spend my money however I want, but I deny myself, true happiness in the form of Micro Machines and PlayStations and things like that. However, I'm starting to get there.
Yeah.
We did a little breakfast with Santa this morning. It's fun. My kids are young. They're into it. They're not necessarily Santa age anymore. They're 8 and 10. They're kind of like, it's fun to play along.
Right.
They know what the deal is. But we did go do a little breakfast with Santa this morning. That was kind of fun. Went with some friends' kids. They're a little bit younger. I got a little peppermint mocha situation going on here.
Yeah.
Watching some spooky Christmas movies. So I'm going to say I'm hitting a 5.
Yeah.
But I'm on a good upward trajectory.
Yeah.
Haven't started, baking Christmas cookies and all that yet, but we're getting there. We're easing ourselves into it. Well, for those of you who are also just easing yourself into the Christmas season here, the holiday season, we got a real holiday horror gem on our hands here today. For those of you who joined us last week, or perhaps for those of you who didn't join us last week, spoiler alert for those folks. But also, the fuck were you doing? You act like you had something better to do? Sign on to the old podcast. Listen to it, you shitbirds. Anthony, our old pal, Big Tone Dog, as I know he loves to be called, joined us on our December Showdown episode, our Secret Satan episode. And once again, Steve and I are continuing our poor record in 2024 of getting our asses reamed out by our guests on the Showdown episodes. I have not done the math, Steven, and I'm not sure if you have either, but boy, it feels like we've been getting our shit pushed in by our guests this year. Is that fair to say?
That is definitely fair to say. I don't remember the last time I won, and I place most of that blame on you. I place most of it on you because you just never are willing to just come over to the other side. And then the times that they win a lot on votes from the audience. So that's my second blame. I blame the audience and me not winning. And then I take none of that blame because that's the era we're entering. we're going back to that kind of government. And so I also am a part of that government now, and that none of this is my fault and it's everybody else's fault.
I'm thinking in 2025, I'm going to take that hardline stance too. Nothing's my fault. Everything's everyone else's fault. Everyone's stupid but me. I'm gonna lean even more heavily into that. I think in 2025. Yeah, man, we gotta rejigger this somehow. We gotta figure this out, Steve, because we're really getting fucked pretty hard in 2024.
2025 is the year that we get like a more permanent co-host, I think. But they're really fucking dumb and bad at movies.
Oh hell yeah. Let's get like a goddamn idiot as our permanent third co-host.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right. Let me think about my stupidest friends that like horror movies.
I'm gonna get on the remnants of Twitter and just put up a post seeking GDI.
And every time I hear the phrase GDI, I think of Master Shake saying it. It cracks me up.
Oh yeah.
It's GDI over here. Yeah, we need a dumb friend who will come on here and say stupid shit, and then we can just drag him through the mud, and just beat him up. All right, we'll work on that, guys. If you got any dumb friends you'd like to introduce us to that want to co-host the podcast, let us know. But for the meantime, we again got our asses handed to us, and we ended up losing to Anthony, in which, in our defense, we had the cards stacked against us a little bit, right? This was a secret Satan, so we don't have as much control over things as we typically do. Anthony did take it down, but one good thing about 2024 and us just getting reamed out is our guests, for the most part, have been fairly kind with their punishment episodes. And this is no exception. We watched a little movie from the year of our Lord, 2000, the year 2000, Y2K, guys. We watched the sequel to one of my favorite holiday horror movies, which is, of course, Jack Frost from 1997. This is Jack Frost 2: Revenge of the Mutant Killer Snowman, again, from 2000. Had you seen this movie before, Steve? We got some other things we got to do at the top of the show, but I'm curious because I didn't ask. Had you seen this movie prior to this viewing?
No, I hadn't. I thought it was possible because I just didn't remember. But like after watching the film, I was like, I don't remember any of this, so I definitely didn't see this before. It's just one of those things where the VHS store always had both, and the Jack Frost cover was always more memorable because it had that kind of lithographic transformation on it.
Yep.
And then I had seen Jack Frost back in the day, but
sure.
Yeah. Now I guess I had just never gotten around to the sequel.
Yeah, I think we talked about this. Did we do a full episode on Jack Frost?
Yeah, we did.
I feel like we did at one point. Yeah, this is one of my, if we hadn't, I would have been just blown away because this is one of my favorite movies, period, frankly.
Right.
This is one that was like a VHS sweetheart, rental sweetheart for me. I watched this with, my friends, when I was between the ages of 12 and 18, I probably watched this movie 100 times. Not this movie, but the original Jack Frost from 97.
Right.
And then when this came out, it kind of flew under the radar. I did watch it once way back in the day. I watched it. This is probably my fourth viewing of it, but this is the first time I watched it in probably a good 5 or 6 years. Enjoyable.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, guys. Enjoyable. Perhaps lacking a little bit of the charm of the 1997 movie. That's just my opinion. We'll get into it, guys. We got a couple of things to do at the top of the Son of a Bitchin' show. First of all, Steven, do you got a beer over there you're sipping on? No, you do.
Yes, I do.
What are you sipping on?
I got a beer, and boy, is it just fucking syrup. I had it's syrup.
Really?
It's syrup, but it's syrup within the bounds of the season. Because I bought it. I bought it specifically because most of the beers I drink nowadays are just specifically on this show. So I bought this one specifically, and it is from the Southern Tier Brewing Company, and it's their specialty chestnut praline imperial ale.
Ooh, sounds fucking disgusting. Also, that color, I guess chestnut could potentially, some reddish character there for maybe a roasted chestnut. I don't know. I know you got the background might be throwing it off, but it looked very red to me. Is that accurate?
It's a little bit red. The other thing that might be throwing you off is like the lights from my keyboard and mouse might be bouncing up into it a little bit, but yeah, it has like a little bit of a red color to it. It's not like a straight, it's not like a straight golden nail, but I imagine maybe it's a golden nail base, and then whatever they put in gives it a red tinge.
How what's it treating you like?
It's kind of gross. I think most people are not going to... I feel like this is new for this year because I don't remember it last year. And
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people are going to be asking for it back. But it feels like they put some fucking extract in like a really strong Belgian. Yeah. Yeah.
So it has some phenols and stuff going on in there too?
Yeah, it has like a little bit of phenols to it. And it's like it has, you know, the nutty tastes to it. But then the back end is also just like heavily just, I don't know, just blown out and sweet. And like, a little bit of that burn. It's It's not great. It's not great.
Well, so interesting that somebody would put chestnut is like pumpkin, you know, in the sense that nobody actually, when people say pumpkin, they're just thinking of pumpkin pie spices in their beer. What do you think percentage of people who are buying that beer know what a chestnut tastes like? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I will tell you right now, the flavor of a chestnut is not something you want in your beer.
No.
You want a roasted chestnut. And I'm perhaps one of the rare fucking weirdos who roasts chestnuts because my neighbor has a big chestnut tree and he gives them to me every year. I also was just at I think we talked about on the show, it's just at a little Christmas carnival a week or so ago, maybe a couple weeks ago now. It was, you know, right after Thanksgiving. And they were selling roasted chestnuts, and I like a roasted chestnut. My father is a guy who likes a roasted chestnut, so you know I'll roast some, or I think we took some home for him even. They're very vegetal.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah, right.
They're like they don't taste nutty. They have a toastiness to them, right, for sure, but they're very vegetal in character, and just not a flavor I would necessarily want in a beer. But I think people just hear chestnut and they think chestnuts roasting on an open fire, you know, the Christmas song, and then they're like, oh, okay, festive.
Right.
That's all that
exactly.
Chestnut just means festive. Nobody knows what the fuck a chestnut tastes like.
Yeah, because I think it's definitely leaning more heavily on like the praline type of flavoring. But yeah, there is like a strange bitter kind of like coating on the roof of my mouth and tongue afterwards, like as an aftertaste. Yeah, it's not a great beer. I don't think a lot of people are going to be into this. Yeah.
I am drinking, Steve, the absolute goddamn polar opposite of what you just described. I am drinking a beer. I was just down in Nashville for Thanksgiving last week, or week before last, rather, early into this week. We came back last Monday. I am drinking, I stocked up on beers from one of my favorite breweries from beautiful Nashville, Tennessee, Smith & Lenz Brewing. I love their beer. Fantastic lager brewery down there. And I'm drinking their Helles, which is just their mariachi static Helles lager. Just a straight up.
Oh, wow.
I'm drinking out of the Stanja for some reason.
Yeah.
But just crystal clear.
Yeah.
Really nice Pils malt showcase. Super clean. Fuck, I drank 100 of these while I was down in Nashville, and this is my last one, and I'm sad about it.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I got this. I got some Pils. The only things they had, I was sad that they had, I was not sad that they had, when I went down, their draft lineup is incredible. At the same time, on draft, they had this Helles, which is fantastic. German Pils. They had a dry hopped German Pils. They had a Czech 8 degree. They had a Czech 10 degree. They had a Czech dark lager. They had a Vienna lager. Like they had just all these fantastic beers on tap. You know, a couple IPAs, stuff like that too. But every fucking one of them is so good. I grabbed a bunch of cans of a couple of the Pilses, but they didn't have any of the Czech lagers in cans, unfortunately. But I did bring some of this Helles back. So shout out to Smith & Lenz. So good.
Yeah, that sounds like a brewery that just like doesn't bend to anybody else. Like we're just going to do lagers and that's it. And don't bother us and don't ask.
It's funny though, because they do IPAs too, and they're fucking really good too. Like that's one of the things that's really unique about them is they do IPAs, both hazy and West Coast. They do like a mosaic. It's not a hazy. It's more of like a heavily dry hopped West Coast, but with a little bit less bitterness. So it could appease a hazy IPA drinker, but it's all mosaic. It's fantastic. Although not, necessarily my go-to variety of beer, but all of their beers are just like fantastically well executed. They're just like one of those people that the brewers are just, they know what the fuck they're doing. And like the original like ownership is still involved and they just are fucking awesome, even though they've grown and gotten quite popular and stuff around Nashville. But anyway, they're awesome. So I don't think I've ever had a bad beer from them. So I'm drinking the opposite of what you're drinking. Which is to say that it's good. So Beersy's out of the way. Guys, we do got to spin that son of a bitch and wheel because believe it or not, we're going to be already talking about that January Showdown episode here in a hot sec. Before we do that, guys, let me remind everyone, if you want to follow us on the social medias, you want to see some spooky ooky shit, you want to keep up with our votes and our various suggestions and polls, and like I said, just spooky ooky shit on the intranet, go over and follow us on social media. Also, you just type Halloween is Forever and you'll find us over there. However, one other thing I haven't mentioned in a while, and I am running quite low, if you write us a review on your podcatcher app, screenshot it, send it to us, right? And then I'm keeping up with some massive memes in the Discord chat here. Send it to us. Send me your address. I'll send you some son of a bitch and Halloween is Forever stickers in the mail, but I'm getting quite low on stickers. I got to do another order and refresh them. Maybe we'll do a new sticker. Maybe we'll do something wacky this time. Maybe we'll do a different sticker rather than our straight up logo. Maybe we'll do something silly.
Hell yeah.
Let's do a quick Patreon plug. And I also want to thank some new Patreons subscribers, some new patrons on the Patreon who have joined us in recent weeks. We appreciate you having you here. And if you're thinking about maybe a little gift for a loved one, maybe you're driving in the car with your fucking weird significant other right now, and they're listening to us, and you're thinking to yourself, man, I really got to get my boyfriend, girlfriend, significant other, whatever, a gift for the holidays. And you're thinking to yourself, what the fuck am I going to get this dildo? They got everything they need. You know what they need? They need another fucking episode of Halloween is Forever. You need more of our voices in your ears every son of a bitchin' month. That's the only thing that's going to make your life better in 2025. So you can subscribe over on patreon.com/Halloween is Forever. You could get a bunch of stuff. Steve, why don't you tell them what you get? Including that bonus podcast episode I was just mentioning.
So you get reviews and recos. I do write-ups every month.
Hot, sticky, sweet recos every month, guys.
I'm telling you right now, December is going to be full of a lot of Asian horror recos because I've been on the train.
Are you going to do a little samurai? Are you going to do a little samurai reincarnation?
A little samurai reincarnation. A little shark versus ninja. Because
Speaking of shark, I'm watching at your suggestion. I got about halfway through it, and I just have it on the background right here. And I'm finding this is the type of movie I don't really need. I can just read the dialogue here.
Yeah, right.
I'm watching that under Paris Business right now.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Just fun, wacky people getting eaten by sharks. It's fun.
No, you don't need to hear the dialogue. It is. Yeah, it's a pretty stupid movie, but it's fun, stupid. Like, why don't you want that?
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, you get reviews and recos. You get on the Discord, which we already mentioned, which means if you're in the Discord, you get to jump in to live episodes, watch them happen, talk with us in the chat. I'll share memes with you while Brian's talking. We'll do all kinds of stuff. We got all kinds of things going on. And then, like Brian said, you get that extra episode. And you also get to jump on in that one and participate in that. So it's a whole bunch of things going on. I do want to point out, though, Patreon has changed things a little bit. So they have added gifting possibilities. So I know maybe you were being a little facetious there, Brian, about giving a gift of subscription.
I'm being fish-cetious because I'm watching a shark movie.
Watching sharks.
Sharks, he's eating a guy, just bit a guy's foot off.
I was watching sharks. But you actually can give the gift of subscription now. And I think maybe we'll do like a little giveaway on the Instagram too. And
that's fun.
I personally can gift a month to somebody. So yeah.
I think that's fun. 'Tis the season of giving. That's fun. I like that. I like that idea. Gift somebody a month, a year, a lifetime subscription. I don't fucking know how it works. I'm talking out my ass. But I will say we had our November episode and we'll be coming up with our December episode. And I think we only have 2 or 3 more episodes of our current Patreon exclusive podcast series, which is Youth Group is Forever. Wherein Steve and I watch a bunch of really shitty right-wing propaganda religious Christian horror movies that I make Steve watch them. He doesn't watch them willingly, but then we talk about them and they're real fucking dumb. But then you also get all the back episodes where Steven made me do the same thing and watch all the fucking Fast and the Furious movies, which you might say, wow, that's quite a right turn. Actually, not, because the Fast and Furious movies are right-wing Christian propaganda. Yes. I maintain that.
Yes, they are.
100%. But then Steve, after the next, I think, 2 or 3 more episodes, Steve, it's gonna flip back over to Steve, and then God knows what he's gonna make me fucking watch. So we just torture each other for an extra episode per month, pretty much.
I know what's gonna happen, but Brian doesn't.
No, Steve's already made up his mind. I don't know what it's going to be. I'm trying not to think about it. It's going to be a bad year.
You're right. It'll be 3 episodes left because we have 1 in December and then 2 more after that. And then it's time for something new.
I don't know what it is. I can tell you, I don't know. I actually have no fucking idea. You haven't given me any clues or anything yet. I imagine
actually, the coming months, and you don't know it.
Really?
Yes.
I don't know it. No, it went over my head.
Which makes me all the more happy because I've used the same clue twice, and the fact that it's gone completely over your head just fucking really just makes me rub my hands together. Just
tenting your fingers.
Yes.
I have no idea. I completely missed it if there were hints. I will say I have been watching some wacky ass shit lately. I don't know if you've seen it, but this might be a fun thing down the road. I don't know. I'm too early onto it, but I think I mentioned in the Instagram feed that I'm rewatching Berserk. I've been watching a lot of anime lately. I'm rewatching Berserk. I think it's probably my 3rd time. I watched it twice in college, so it's been a good 15 years since I watched it again. So I'm watching it again, but I'm also getting back into JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Okay, sure.
That's a bonkers ass fucking anime, but it's really fun. So I've been down an anime rabbit hole. So I'm and silly ass shit. Like I said, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is silly as fuck. So I'm really hoping that preps me for whatever silliness you have coming down the road. Provide some mental elasticity. No, Steve shaking his head. No, it doesn't seem like it's going to help me.
Nope, it will. It will not.
Okay.
Yeah. I did. I dropped JoJo's in the middle of season 3, but maybe I'll jump back into that.
I'm just almost done with season 1, so I'm early on. It was one of those things where I watched maybe 8 or 10 episodes, and then I just stopped for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. This was a couple years ago, and now I'm coming back, and I started from the beginning, and now I'm almost done with season 1. So that's where I'm at, though. That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Anyway, join us over there on the Patreon. It's a lot of fun. All right, let's get down to spinning that son of a bitchin' wheel. While Steve brings it up, I'll explain to you how this works for those of you who are new to the podcast. Here's what happens. We deliver you some fucking sexy, spooky content every Monday on the internet. However, the first Monday of every month, we do something a little different. We do what's called a Showdown episode. And our typical Showdown episodes work like this. We got this spinny ass wheel. We spin it 3 times. We get 3 different topics. They could be anything from a horror subgenre to a particular performer, a theme, whatever, right? And then we put those 3 potential topics out on the interwebs for y'all to vote on, for our social media friends and listeners to vote on. Then once we have that topic, me, Steve, and our guests pick a movie associated with that topic. During that Showdown episode, we have a goddamn rumble. Somebody's going to inevitably pull out the kendo stick, right? Someone's going to dump a sack full of tacks on the mat, suplex somebody onto it. Ultimately, somebody is going to take home that son of a bitch championship strap for the month. And of course, to the victor go the spoils. The very next week, that victor gets to pick a punishment episode that the other 2 have to watch and discuss. And that's where we're at right now. Anthony won last month, and he was the one who picked this lovely Murderous Mutant Snowman movie. So, Steve, what do we got for our I'm going to bring up my stream here so I can watch it live here with us while we spin that wheel. Ooh, okay. I see what our first pick is.
Yes, first pick is Urban Legends.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, so I guess that could include the movie series, because I mean, even though it's on the nose, it still could include it. But if I don't know, I wonder how deep we can go with that.
I was gonna say it's actually somewhat open-ended, right? We could definitely talk about some fucking movies that are obviously based pretty, I would say the I Know What You Did Last Summer movies certainly would fall under Urban Legends. A Jeepers Creepers type movie would fall under Urban Legends.
Yeah, I
think anything that has to do with a retold well-known story like that, I could see working. But yeah, fairly open-ended.
Yeah.
A Candyman, Dan mentioned. Yeah, anything Candyman related, I think would work. All right, interesting. Urban Legends.
I'm also thinking of like X-Day hair extensions, because like that's I mean it's Japanese legend, but it's their legend, so yeah.
Yeah. Anything yokai, I feel like would certainly work for an urban legend. All right. I like that.
Number 2, best movies with the worst titles. That's interesting. New. We've never had this one come up before. This is new.
Best movies, worst titles. That's it. I love that one because we oftentimes talk about movies. I'll give an example, one that we've talked about quite a bit on the old podcast that absolutely, we wouldn't be able to do because we've already done it on the podcast, but something like Life Force, which we love. We love a Life Force.
Yeah. But terrible fucking title.
Disgustingly bad title. And hurt the movie for that reason. So, all right, that'll be a fun one. Best movies, worst titles. All right, what's number 3, Stephen? Let's spin that son of a bitchin' spinny ass wheel one more time, and we are landing on
Hungry for
Horror. So this is one we've had come up before, but it's been a hot second. It's been years, I think, at this point. Yeah. So when we say Hungry for Horror, we're talking about anything that is like food or perhaps even like restaurant themed, right? We've done it before, so I'll use this as an example, but a blood diner certainly would make a lot of sense. I don't think we've done this one, but a poultrygeist, I think, would make a lot of sense. The Stuff, which I think we've also done the Stuff in some capacity. There's no way we haven't done the Stuff. I don't know if that's true or not.
No, we haven't done the Stuff.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I can tell you what we did on the original Hungry for Horror Showdown.
Oh, yes, please.
We did Ravenous. Because that movie rules, but you guys didn't pick it because you're assholes. We did Motel Hell. And
I remember doing Motel Hell. Yeah. Which rules.
And then Meg did The Platform, and we made fun of her for doing her fucking Jesus allegory film.
Yes, she falls for it every time. She falls for a Jesus allegory every time.
Gets tricked by Jesus all the time.
She always does. She always falls into that pitfall. Anyway, okay, that'll be fun. So once again, urban legends, best movies, worst titles, or hungry for horror. If you feel strongly about one of those, I would urge you to go over and follow us on the social medias. We're gonna run those polls on Instagram as well as on the threads, right? Potentially even, does Blue Sky do a whatchamacallit?
No
poll situation? No.
Blue Sky has not implemented polls yet. So
okay.
Unfortunately, it will have to run on X, but it will probably run on X, get 0 engagement, doesn't matter. Run on threads, get a result different from Instagram, and then another perk of Patreon is if you sign up for Patreon, you get an extra vote. So how about that?
You do get an extra vote. You do get an extra vote as well. So, all right. Okay. We got all that behind us. Steven, let's get into this son of a bitchin' movie. Like I said, this is the sequel to one of my absolute favorites. I would say, and it's same director, same writer, one Mr. Michael Cooney. I won't get into it too much because he does. We did talk about him quite a bit on our episode wherein we talked about the original Jack Frost. This movie, I believe, and the original were both, by all intents and purposes, a direct to VHS release. This might have been a direct to DVD in 2000. There were VHSs certainly available still, but people were getting on into DVD land at that point. In any case, very similar vibe. I would say overall, made with the same type of love and care for a schlocky, late 90s, early 2000s horror movie, but way jokier. And the first one's pretty jokey, but this is just bits after bits after bits.
Yeah. I was actually pretty annoyed with how many bits there was like up front, but then I don't know. Maybe I just got inoculated to it, or I just got more in vibe with the movie as it went on, and I was like, okay, they're Looney Tunes. It's Looney Tunes. Stop expecting more from the movie from that.
Yeah, this is kind of interesting because the first movie, if you've not seen it, first of all, get your head out of your ass. Go on Tubi, watch Jack Frost from 1997, not 1998. The one from 1997 that looks like a fucking horror movie. It is a really fun, like I said, made with a lot of love, fucking killer snowman movie. Right, that's all there's to. But we've joked about it when I remember we did this movie before. We talk about how it is really silly at times, and then other times really mean-spirited.
Yeah,
like really mean-spirited at times. At times, there's one very infamous scene with Shannon Elizabeth in it that most people will think of when they think about that movie. But there's a lot of really mean scenes in the movie, and it's just a bonkers film. This movie, not nearly as much meanness, and a lot more gags. The dialogue is very jokey in the first movie. This is just literal bits, just bit after bit after bit, which is not a bad thing. It's still an enjoyable movie. I still think that the set design is very charming. I will say this time, and I think it's because of the proximity of time in which I've watched it compared to this other movie, but I did not realize this is Club Dread.
Right.
It is just Club Dread, and we talked about that movie before. This is Broken Lizard's Club Dread, which is a horror comedy movie starring the Broken Lizard guys who do Super Troopers and Slam and Salmon and Beer Fest and all this stuff, which we love. This came out, I'm going to say it's maybe 4 years before that. I did not realize that it is absolutely, impossible to deny that they watched Club Dread. The Broken Lizard guys watched this movie and went, all right, let's take a similar premise and similar vibe. I mean, even there's even characters that are so one-to-one.
Yeah.
And just do our own version of it with like a mystery whodunit serial killer situation instead of a mutant killer snowman.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to deny, like, MC Gainey's character in Club Dread is basically Agent Mathis in this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and even the like kind of
Manners.
Rastafarian manners. Yeah. The Rastafarian kind of like guy. I mean, there's the fun, Captain Fun, character. Yeah. It's insane. Like there are one-to-one connections with now, of course, they did their own thing, and I love Club Dread. But this is
strangely, Club Dread is more serious than this movie.
It is. It's definitely more serious, and certainly more of a budget as well. But I will say I like that the director writer from the first movie came back to do this one. I like that we have a lot of the same actors, and I will say very Broken Lizard like. They have one actor who changes it up. We have the same. We have Christopher Allport as Sam. We have Eileen Seeley as Anne. We have a lot of same people coming back, but we have in this movie a completely different guy that plays Agent Manners. This guy who plays in this one is David Allen Brooks, and they make a point of saying like, "Oh, it's Agent Manners," and even the one character goes like, "Wait, that's Agent Manners? Wow, he's a lot cuter." Like makes a comment about how it's a different actor playing it. So, they do those kind of, cheeky fourth wall breaking gags here as well. But they got a lot of the same people back, and it has a very similar vibe, I will say. But, it does pick up where the last one left off. And there are moments in the first one, the original voiceover kind of element in the first movie, which is kind of creepy. And like I said, kind of just mean spirited in a way, but in a silly way. They don't have that in this one, but it starts out where you kind of have an explanation of the first movie and how it wrapped up by Sam kind of doing a little bit of a voiceover. And he is talking to his therapist and they're all laughing at him over the intercom. So it's this gag of like Sam has become kind of a joke, because he and Manners and everybody involved were like, took a, kind of like vowed silence, you know what I mean, as they wrapped up the previous movie and the whole deal with the antifreeze and all that stuff. And everyone kind of thinks Sam is a joke and he's kind of a crackpot now. So,
and it's also just the movie setting you up immediately by acknowledging that the first movie is so preposterous in nature with, just like all these people, because it starts out with the secretary of the psychiatrist laughing about it. And then she's joined by a construction worker. And I think just like a couple other people who have no business being in there. And they're all laughing at Sam's story. So strangely, the movie is smart in setting you up and saying like, boy, wasn't that first movie so preposterous, but also watch what we do now. Cause it's just going to be, it's good. How do we make a movie that's less dumb than the first one? And you don't. So get ready.
You can't. Yeah. I appreciate that because it's done again with a lot of care and a lot of effort. This movie compared to when you think like low budget horror in 2000, this is done with so much more care and skill than a lot of other movies of the era. But compared to low budget horror of now, we talk about things like The Killing Tree.
Yeah.
This makes The Killing Tree look like, Shawshank Redemption. It's just like, it's done so much better. The writing is infinitely better, so much more effort, so much more. It's just so much nicer to look at.
Yeah,
it's actually
I think you got
entertaining.
that backwards. Killing Tree makes this look like Shawshank, but yeah, I agree.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say it backwards? You get the idea. This is so much better and so much more fun. So when we say like low budget horror, like this is the type of fun low budget. Now very silly, very self-aware, very jokey, but still a really, really fun movie. The whole premise here is Sam and Anne, as well as their friends who are getting married, are going on a tropical vacation for Christmas because it's 1 year later. Sam's been obviously struggling to get over everything that happened the prior Christmas. So they are going on a tropical vacation to a tropical island resort for Christmas. And we get introduced to a bunch of folks right off the bat. There's like these like model and like her photographer, this like group of co-eds. So you're just like, all these people are going to die. They're all fodder, right? For Jack Frost. And you know that. You get some of the people around the employees of the resort. First of all, you have the colonel who weirdly he's in charge, right? Of the resort. You get the idea. Maybe he's the owner of the resort, but he wears like a pit helmet and like all these, almost this kind of like explorer get up. And he's this old blue bloody type of British guy.
Yeah.
And he talks like he is, was spent most of his time, in the Indian subcontinent during like Britain's colonization there. You know what I mean? So it's like, how does that make sense time wise? It certainly doesn't.
It doesn't make sense time wise. It is such a weird character to portray. And there's just something about this movie is so quintessentially pre 9/11 about it.
Sure.
Because everything is a joke. Everything is silly. It's all cartoons. Like there's no ounce of grittiness or like trying to inject there's no social like kind of thought into this at all.
No.
It is just up and down cartoons. And like there's a charm to that. The other strange thing about this movie is I'm watching it and I can't get over the fact that it looks like the daytime soap opera Passions. I don't know if you ever watched that growing up, if you're like homesick on a day and like you just wound up watching the soap opera Passions because it was on after, I don't know, Wheel of Fortune or wherever it was. But like I don't know what it is. I couldn't figure it out. I was so bothered by it. I was like trying to look for what camera was used to film Jack Frost 2 because it doesn't look like a 35 millimeter film, even though it says that on IMDb. But it looks like it was filmed on a TV studio with TV cameras. I just can't figure it out though. It looks so bizarre, but it's strangely crisp on Tubi.
Yeah. It is. It has a very unique look to it that I can only equate to some low budget horror movies of the early 2000s. You know what I mean? That's immediately when I think of this particular look, that's what I think of is some low, not zero budget, but low budget horror movies of this era, like we would, direct to VHS, direct to DVD movies that we would rent at the video store, which is very, very charming to me personally. We get introduced to a couple other bonkers characters, which I did not realize this the first time around. You get these two guys who are stranded on a raft, and they're just there to like basically be the, hey, let's catch up with what's going on with Jack. And they're stranded out on a raft. They're kind of arguing and fighting over their last like bits of food. And I did not realize that one of them is Doug Jones.
Yeah. Yeah,
the great Doug Jones, who many of you would know from like The Shape of Water, Hellboy, Pan's Labyrinth. He was in Hocus Pocus. He's been in everything. He is known for doing a lot of tremendous costume work, incredible physical actor, and CGI, motion capture stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting he's in this movie because, like you said, he was in Hocus Pocus and he was in Tank Girl as well, which were both before this film. And he was also in Mimic, which like Mimic is probably is where like he first, I mean, not probably, I'm sure it is. Mimic is where he first links up with Guillermo del Toro, who, Guillermo basically employs him for almost every other film that Guillermo does.
He plays the monster or a creature in everything. Yeah, some of the most iconic, the Pale Man and the creature in Shape of Water. I mean,
yeah, Guillermo just gives Doug Jones work. But yeah, this is kind of the film that, it's funny that Jack Frost was one of the early films for Shannon Elizabeth, and then she kind of became a big star. And then Doug Jones, after this, he gets to go on to do Men in Black and Hellboy. And Hellboy is where he really gets his, boost from playing Abe Sapien. But it's very funny. I think I'm going to go out on a limb that because the director of this film, he is a British man, and so Doug Jones, he probably just knew Doug Jones and could ask a favor, because the scene with Doug is just this isolated scene on a raft with his buddy, and so they're not part of the rest of the cast. And then the other guy that I think probably just had a pre-existing connection with the director is the guy who's playing that colonizer fucking stereotype, the Colonel Hickering. He's played by Ray Cooney, so I assume there's a connection with Michael Cooney, and
didn't make that connection. He's great though,
right? Yeah. This is kind of one of 4 of Ray Cooney's acting roles. He's only acted 4 times, and this is one of them. However, he's a kind of prolific TV and stage writer. So you could tell he's a trained actor. I mean, you can tell that. Yeah, he understands acting, but he just he just rarely acts, and I assume it's his brother, and they just he's like, come on, give me a couple days, and he's like, fine.
Yeah, he's very funny. He's very funny in it. Such a bonkers character, out of left field character. Yeah, so interestingly enough, Jack, we know he's Snow. In the first one, he's radioactive. Snow, where he's water molecules that have been mutated, genetically altered DNA has fused with these water molecules, and we know that he can turn into water and he can turn into snow and ice and all these sorts of things. But in this movie, his range of what he can control and turn into really broadens. In this scene, we learn that he is the ocean now, basically, or a small portion of the ocean now, which is kind of fun.
But just quickly, Ray Cooney's actually Michael Cooney's dad. It's not his brother.
I was going to say he's got to be much older, because he appears to be in his 70s in this. I thought was thinking he was a dad or unky. Yeah.
But it's not. We get a scene in a lab where a bunch of guys dug up the cursed antifreeze from the last film, and then they're doing tests. They're doing science lab on it.
They're just sciencing it.
Yeah, and it looks like Beekman's World. The whole fucking scene. I don't know
why. The lighting, everything. Yeah, the green lighting is why it's Beekman's World. Yeah,
it looks like Beekman's World, and they're just like, no.
Wouldn't it be funny if there was just a guy in a giant rat suit?
And then the scientists go home, and somebody leaves a cup of Sleepy Time tea or whatever on top of the tank with the antifreeze, and just a bum ass janitor knocks it over into the antifreeze, and that brings them back. And it's so unclear, and they just don't care to explain it.
They don't care, and I actually love it for that. It's just don't even. Let's not bog ourselves down with this nonsense. Let's not have too much plot getting in the way of the story here. It's just, he's back.
Right.
Scientists did some things to him, which changed some stuff, because the whole idea is they want it basically to later on them be able to not just say oh, we're doing the same thing that we did last time, which is antifreeze. And it becomes even a joke, a little bit of an inside joke with the audience later, where it's Sam's just going, boy, if I just had some antifreeze, because it's a silly premise, but really well executed in the first movie. And they're kind of at that point this time where they're just
okay,
we just can't make it so we do the same thing over again.
Right.
you know?
Yeah. How do you every sequel is how do you up the stakes? And so, you can't just redo antifreeze because they would get it done that way. So you up the stakes by he's now immune to antifreeze. All right.
Yeah.
Now, how do they solve the problem?
Right. Yeah. He's immune to antifreeze because of science. Scientists did experiments on it, and then that changed things, and that's all you need to know. So move on. Don't make a fucking big deal about it. By the way, quick check-in on Under Paris. There was a swim race. bunch of sharks attacked them, and then the river patrol is now just going in circles shooting into the water where there were previously hundreds of people and presumably a bunch of dead bodies, and they're just emptying ARs into the water right now.
Hell yeah, brother.
Bonkers. This movie's bonkers.
Like I told you, that is the Punisher war zone of shark movies.
It really is. There's a lot of gunplay for a shark movie.
Yeah, fucking rules.
So we get introduced to, we already talked about it, the character of Captain Fun, which is pretty, he's got some good lines. There's a lot of funny people in this movie. I do want to mention who plays Captain Fun. It's Sean Patrick Murphy, which, I mean, that's the most kind of generic Irish name I've ever heard in my life. But what do I know Sean Patrick Murphy from? I feel like I know him from something. Let's do a very quick...
I'm sure you've seen him. That's the thing I discovered going through a lot of the sub characters in this movie is they all are, a lot of them are continuing to work today. And there are a lot of those actors who are just in the background of NCIS, in the background.
That's exactly what he is. He's in he's in just an episode of this, an episode of that, you know?
Yeah. He's an episode on Bones. Same with the guy who plays Bobby, who is Ty Bennett. He's just in a bunch of stuff, and I know I've seen him because I've just watched those programs. So yeah. So he's also in John Dies at the End, which may be just the most recognizable film that he's been in.
He's in a few episodes of The West Wing. Yeah, he's just in a lot of stuff. So I've probably just seen him pop up here and there. Anyway, very funny character. I mean, undeniably, it is a Eric. How do you say his name? Stolhansky. Who plays Sam in Club Dread, who's a really funny character too. It's the same character almost, right? Anyway, we get introduced to him. He's kind of like the fun police, if you will. Always trying to. He's like the. Like that quirky guy at the resort who's like the activities manager kind of guy, right? This is where it gets confusing because Jack gets a carrot from Doug Jones and the other guy he kills out at sea, gets to land, gets to the resort, and now he's a carrot. So the carrot is he's controlling the carrot now. His body is like the carrot. He smashes a co-ed with an ice anvil. It's a literal Looney Tunes bit. You get barbecue tongues in the eyes. You get an idea really early that this is just going to be wacky, right?
Yeah.
A lot of wacky slapstick kind of kills.
It's
yeah.
Again, I guess it's probably just kind of this first 20 minutes of basically up until the ice anvil. That the introduction of all these characters, I was annoyed by. I was all these characters are kind of annoying, for a bit until you get used to them. Then you're okay. And then the whole why is Jack the ocean, but also now he's a carrot nose, and I'm just okay, but what why wouldn't he just freeze in the ocean and then come out of it?
Think that much about it, Steve.
I know. Yeah. There's too much. That's the thing. That's the problem with the movie. There's too much to think about in the first 20 minutes. Yeah. And then, and they're overstimulating you with a whole bunch of new characters. But after the ice anvil, you go, all right, I'm back in my comfort zone because we're just going to kill 3 women in, graphic ways really quickly. And you go,
yep.
Oh, well, the effects are pretty decent though.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, cool practical effects. We're just here to set up some silly kills and bits and gags, right? As expected, they start discovering mangled corpses around the resort. The colonel wants to cover it up. It's Club Dread. They have this grizzled head of security, not unlike Club Dread. He's supposed to be, like I said, Agent Manners, the FBI guy from the first movie, but he's a completely different guy. And they do make a kind of inside joke, fourth wall breaking joke about him being cuter or something. The one woman says he's cuter than the first movie or something.
Yeah. He also makes the joke that he had to go through 15 different facial reconstruction surgeries to get to this way.
Yeah. Just complete nonsense. This is a really fun bit, and this reminds me a little bit. I remember the first time I watched this, I was like, oh, this is going to be really silly, kind of similar to the first movie in that it's going to be like kind of like grimy a little bit too, like sleazy. But then we don't get much sleaziness later. I mean, we do get some boobs, but like nothing. It's not sleazy. It's not nearly as sleazy as the first movie, but we do get this scene early on where you're like, ooh, maybe we're going to pick up with the sleaziness that we got from the first movie. We have this model who's there to do a photo shoot on this tropical island with her, photographer. And the photographer is like, all right. And they also made the photographer like flamboyantly gay. So it takes a little bit of the sleaziness out of it because he's just very pragmatic about it.
Right.
But which probably was a wise decision. But he's basically like, hey, we're doing this photo shoot. We have to keep your nipples hard for the photo shoot. And he's like, hey, your nips aren't hard anymore. And then she's like, okay, I got to get some ice because she's going to rub ice on her nipples to keep her nipples hard for this photo shoot. And Jack becomes the ice. So but he doesn't just become all of the ice. He becomes all the individual ice cubes, and all the individual ice cubes are arguing and fighting about who's going to be the ice cube that gets picked to be rubbed on her nipples, which is interesting. And then the one gets picked. He's like, it's me, and then he rubs, and he's like, the ice cube is getting sexually aroused by being rubbed on her nipples. And then after she's done, she like throws it away, and he's like upset. That individual ice cube, not all the other ice cubes, not Jack at large, just that ice cube. So kind of going back to what you're saying, it's creating a lot of confusion about why it was before it was Jack's consciousness was a singular thing. Now it's not. Now it's everything and nothing. And you know what I mean? It's just
right. And he was already shown himself to be a singular thing earlier,
right?
As he's killing the other three co-eds, he's just talking to himself like, oh, I missed her, oh, I missed again, well, I'll get her this time, Anvil.
I guess I'm kind of rusty, or whatever.
Yeah.
But he can also split his consciousness into an entirely separate, like into potentially infinite other entities.
Yeah I guess it's just a matter of like the power scaling that's going on with Jack in this movie is that he is becoming infinitely more and more powerful to a way that they don't understand how powerful he is. Like, why would he even bother fucking with this island of people? Like, his power has grown beyond the island, really. Yeah, he could take over the world at this point, which we learn later on, like how powerful he is. But they also his character in the first movie he is a snowman, but he's got the soul and brains and consciousness of this sadistic serial killer. In this movie, he's now just a supernatural super villain of a snowman. You know what I mean? Yeah. So he doesn't really have the same he doesn't have the same serial killer sensibilities. He's more like a super villain in this movie than he is a serial killer. Yeah. He's still like obsessed with doing bits, and it doesn't like he doesn't feel as directed. Like if you were making this a serious movie, he would be all about going after Sam after being let out.
And only kill people who are getting in the way of him killing Sam. And potentially Agent Manners.
Yeah, and Manners and Joe, because Joe was there as well. So like killing everybody who was, a part of his downfall in the beginning. And then, like you said, killing people who were around Sam and associated with him that like Sam is, like cares about.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's perfectly fine just doing bits and killing a whole bunch of just randos.
He's just about testing out his new powers, essentially.
I guess.
Because of course the scientists, now these powers are new to him. Scientists gave them to him with science. So maybe he's just like taking his new powers out for a stroll. But she puts then she says after the whole nipple thing, she needs an iced coffee because it's hot out. They give him an iced coffee. It's just coffee with ice cubes in it. The ice cubes are, of course, all Jack. And the ice cubes that are in her mouth are all like are like horny and like sexually aroused by being in her mouth. But then she crunches them and then they're like being hurt by that. And I'm not really sure why.
Instead of breaking off into new separate consciousnesses.
Yeah. So she exactly. And then all of a sudden in the least sensible part of it is after she crunches up some ice, she's like, okay, I'm good. I'm feeling better. All right, let's go. Let's take a photo. He's like, okay, big smile. And you see through the lens of the camera and her head explodes. It just explodes.
It fucking rules.
It does roll. It's a wild, fun scene. And then Jack says, I guess that coffee was decapitated.
And this is where I will say that like this movie, we were already talking about how like, the Killing Tree is just fucking trash compared to this, because this movie cared enough to like do the head explosion. It cared enough to like it shows the craftsmanship. Even if you think it's a bad effect, it shows the craftsmanship of like doing a match edit. And so they match edit the actress to the composite of the head explosion dummy that they have
really well too.
Yeah, like I watched it a couple times back just to make sure I was kind of getting it. Like I was understanding how the effect worked. But yeah, she's matched to the composite, which is kind of laid over the background, and the composite explodes. And then they have like a little bit of a CGI thing that lands on the camera lens. And then we're seeing this all through the mock of a camera lens that I believe has been like laid over, the rest of the
which
footage.
Is the photographer's lens. Yeah.
Yeah. To all sell this effect. And it's like, no, the Killing Tree could never believe they could do that.
Doesn't even know how to do that.
Dinosaur Hotel 3 just like doesn't even understand fucking matching actions together. Like they don't give a shit. And so I was impressed. I was like, that's a bad looking effect, but it still is so fucking good and so cool that they tried to do it. One of the other earlier match edits that I think is neat is when he's killing the co-eds, the one co-ed steps on an icicle that Jack has projected out of the sand.
Yeah.
And she falls backwards, and there's just a quick little match edit in there so they can follow her all the way down onto the icicles.
Oh, wow.
Because like she's standing up straight, falls backwards out of frame, and then the frame follows down to see that she's impaled on all the icicles. And it's like, that's a cool little craft thing that, again, the Killing Tree could never.
No, it's just like I said, that's why when I say this movie is made with so much love and care, I mean, that just makes it so, it just makes you like and appreciate it. You know what I mean?
It was a thing that they planned out. Yeah, they planned out their shots before they shot them is what it really boils down to. Like, as dumb as silly as you think this movie may be, it shows how much they planned things out by keeping things in continuous frame. Because the next match edit we get is just like a silly one, but it's Captain Fun, telling Sam like, I got this plan and I know how we will lure the killer out. And then it's a match edit to Sam or not Sam, the Captain Fun putting on ski goggles, and then it zooms out to a party. Because that's his plan. And it's like, it's a clever thing, but you have to actually think to do it ahead of time.
Yeah. His, you know, this is a reoccurring bit, is his plan is always just to throw a party.
Right.
Which again, it's just Club Dread. I mean, it's the same character from Club Dread. It's the character that they then, you know, obviously use in Club Dread. Jumping ahead a little bit, during his idea of just throwing a party, they're all dressed up. You know, it's a costume party. I don't know why this bit made me laugh. I actually chuckled at quite a few bits. It get a little burdensome because they're bang, 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 you know. But this was a bit that got me chuckling, which was Manners comes up and his costume is he's like a private eye kind of detective noir type of thing. Mm-hmm. And Sam says something to him like, don't you think that your costume is a little on the nose or something like that? And he says, back in the Bureau, we would call this a reverse double negative.
Yeah.
Just a funny bit. Like he's just overthinking it in such a stupid way.
Yeah. No one would think of me as a as like a spy. No one would think of me as a spy if I'm dressed as a spy.
It's just such a silly bit.
Yeah. Just quickly, just another bit that actually really made me laugh is like during the archery scene, and like Sam and his wife are having kind of this argument about Jack, but like they keep cutting away from the argument to just show the arrows flying off into all the fucking weird directions. I don't know why that bit tickled me so much.
It was a funny bit. Like they're just missing so bad.
Yeah.
Another one that got me so simple, so dumb, is like all of a sudden Manners says something and he starts talking to his watch, kind of like a 007 or a Get Smart type of thing, where he's like taking it. He's like he's got a communicator on his wrist, and I forget who it is, but somebody walks in. It's Captain Fun. Yeah, he goes, why are you talking to your watch? And he just goes, oh, sorry, old habit.
Yeah.
It's just his regular watch he's talking to. So yeah, anyway, this goes on and on. I won't play her, but it's basically everyone. Sam is suspicious. He goes from suspicious to believing to absolutely positive that Jack Frost is there, and it's everyone going, yeah, he's messed up. He's got you know, trauma from last year, to, oh man, what a poor guy, to you're ruining the trip, to like, oh, Annie's like, I don't know how much I can deal with this kind of thing. Excuse me, I have hiccups. But he still thinks it's Jack because he saw like the carrot. No one believes him, and just Annie and everyone's getting more and more pissed at him. We get this scene with a topless swimmer that Jack. It's a cool scene. It's well executed. I did think we were going to get something a little slimier because because she takes her top off or just strips her swimsuit off and goes for like a little late night skinny dip, and Jack is like, I wouldn't mind practicing a little breaststroke, you know, and you're like, oh God, here it comes.
Yeah,
but
right.
Then it turns out he just freezes the top of the pool, you know, so she's underneath and can't get out and drown. So, which, you know, still decent little fun scene, but at the same time, you're like, oh, I thought this was going to get, you know, Shannon Elizabeth crazy like in the first movie, but
yeah, I was like, oh yeah, again, because I hadn't seen this film before. I was definitely on the edge of like, oh no, what's gonna happen here?
Yeah, this is gonna get sleazy, but nah, they never really go there.
No, instead it turns into a beer commercial instead.
Yeah, there is so much acai. I never saw so much like brand visibility for this, you know, popular but fairly random from a Western perspective Japanese beer all over this island, just everywhere. It's the only beer they drink, and it's always labels out. And I'm wondering if like some local, you know, wholesaler or something like gave them a bunch of beer for their shoot, and they were like, just as long as you know, show it on screen, and you know, that type of thing. Yeah. I was wondering like, how deep does this connection to Asahi go? Because it's specifically in this scene that
Jack Frost walks up to a tiki hut and there's a bunch of acai sitting on the bar, and he touches one of the beers and makes it ice cold. And I was like,
yeah,
is it possible that Japan ran like a clip of this film as a commercial?
Yeah.
Did Michael Cooney like strike a deal where like he sold them a portion of this film to run as a commercial?
Yeah, there's something going on, because no one just gives away that much free, badging, on screen, because there's a dozen times where it's just really prominently displayed on screen. And like I said, all the labels are out. It's very deliberate.
On screen, some of the girls ask for it by name. It's just, it's everywhere. It's hilarious. I love it.
Yeah. And it's not like, it's such a random beer to be. I get it. They're supposed to be in like Hawaii or somewhere. They're supposed to be at like a super, like a remote tropical island that would be, not terrifically far from Asia or something like that. Maybe it's Hawaii or Tahiti or something like that,
Right.
But Jack, then we learn that Jack can freeze the entire island. And it becomes a blizzard on the tropical island. And everyone thinks it's great. Which Sam's the only one that's like, don't you think maybe this might be Jack Frost? And they're like, no, this is cool. This is fun. And the idea is like everyone's hammered, so they're just having a good time and just like, hey, they have rose-colored glasses on kind of thing. We get kind of a fun little practical tongue gag with these two like meathead bros that like, again, another acai, the beer is very prominently displayed, but he has like put his tongue on this pole. As you expect, his tongue gets ripped out, but it's a fun little effect. This is when Jack just starts murdering people because they're back and forth. They're all fed up with Sam's wacky theories, and then Jack just starts murdering people during a snowball fight with like icicles and snowballs, and a lot of impaling people with icicles and knocking people's heads off with snowballs. And then Jack finally shows up. He looks a little different than the first movie. I'd say he probably looks a little bit better, but he looks different, which, with the first movie being one that's, close to my heart, I never liked the design in this one quite as much. But it's fun. It's a big goddamn killer snowman puppet with ice teeth. There's nothing wrong with it. I do like that he's much more physical in this one, in that he like moves around more. It's more like, looks like a full body person in a suit.
Yeah.
And they also introduced this like CGI in this one, which looks bad. But it actually looks better than the Killing Tree, probably.
I don't know that I can give it better than the Killing Tree, but it's still incredibly impressive because it's 1998 or 2000, whatever it is. I mean, it's still super early to be having this much CGI in a independent film, because like it's not just Jack Frost disappearing in the ground a couple times. Like there's a lot of CGI in this movie for some reason. Yeah. And it's like, that's cool. It's not good. It doesn't hold up, but it's cool.
No, it certainly doesn't. But it's fun and it's silly and it's kind of campy. But so they go, hey, we got to do the same thing with the antifreeze. There's no antifreeze because they're on a tropical island, but they have coolant for their generators, and that's like essentially the same thing as antifreeze, or at least it has the same effect on Jack. So they get a bunch of like potato flakes and they basically make like a little trap for Jack, and they trap him in it. But it doesn't work because, the scientist did science on him. So he like melts, but then he regenerates. The set designs for this movie are the highlight of it for me. I'll take a moment to say, like, the whole island, the rooms, the Christmas lights, then when everything's covered in snow, it's the highlight of it for me. It feels so much like Club Dread, but a little bit more cartoony and silly and lower budget. But it's just such an enjoyable movie to look at for me. I just love it. But this is when, like, literally from here to the rest of the movie, it is just rapid fire bits. That is it for the rest of the movie. Manners they have squirt guns by this point with antifreeze in it, or coolant in it. Manners has a laser sight on his, which is just obviously just silly. Now this is when things I do like the direction they went here. It doesn't make any damn sense. It's so dumb, but it's fun. He makes snowballs, and the snowballs hatch into little baby mutant snowmen.
Yes.
And it like calls Captain Fun like Dada, and he's like, oh yay, look how cute it is. And then it's like, kill Dada, and sticks a ice spike through his eye, and it's like just chaos ensues. They end up capturing it, and then there's this whole Gremlins bit with it where they're like trying to kill it, but it keeps reforming. They like put it in a blender, they try all this stuff, it keeps coming back. And then Manners like discovers a shed full of them, and they are literally hand puppets, little tiny snowball sized hand puppets.
Yeah.
With like little teeth and stuff that bite Bill's fingers off, and it's so silly and so fun.
It's silly, but it's charming. And if it's not the hand puppets, it's also like the one in the blender is like Veggie Tales CGI.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of them. When it reforms, it's always CGI. So
yeah. And again, this is how the film ups its stakes. You know, the other way you up the stakes. I wish it was a little more clear that like when Jack falls into the pool of antifreeze and he's slinging himself around.
Yeah.
You know, like he's melting. It's a pretty cool melt effect for what you know the guy in the costume, and he's like throwing himself about. I wish it was more clear that like oh, this is him losing control of himself, and he's throwing bits and bobs of himself off, and then those become, you know, the little puppets that we know.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I just wish that was more clear, but yeah, it is. It's still just like a cool way to up the stakes that like, oh, not only does antifreeze not kill him, but it has that Gremlins effect of making a bunch of new little guys. Yeah. And it is fun.
Yeah. A bunch of little tiny terror kind of thing. So also the bit of the twist here too is that Sam has lost his shit. He's just like muttering about antifreeze and stuff like that. So Anne becomes the badass. She's going to become the protagonist now, and she has this plan for she's going to put them all into containers because they don't seem to be able to get out of these containers. So there's this fun little thing where they're all the snowballs are having like a gremlin party, literally like skateboarding and like drinking beer and shit. Like it's fantastic. They're just like, but they're also like just eating random body parts. Like they're just snacking on fingers and arms and stuff.
Yeah.
And then Anne discovers by accident that this daiquiri that gets spilled on them makes them explode. Like the little baby snowballs explode when this like daiquiri gets on them. And they learn pretty quickly that because they hint at it before, but they basically say that like the snowman, Jack has this connection with Sam because of some of Sam's DNA and the genetically modified water DNA from Jack getting and mixing with Sam. So there's this connection because their DNA's mixed. So Sam mentions a couple times throughout that he's allergic to bananas. And so essentially Jack and in turn, all his little snowball babies are also not just allergic, but when they come in contact with banana, they explode into a bloody, and they do them all practical, which is really fun.
Yeah.
They do little squibs and they explode these little hand puppets with squibs. And for some reason, they all have blood and guts come out of them when they explode, which doesn't make any sense. It's totally unnecessary, but it's so much fun.
Yeah.
And yeah, so they find everything with bananas in it they can find and make this big vat of like, you know, banana liquid, and they put it in squirt guns and that sort of thing. And they just kill people, you know, they kill all the little snowballs with banana juice, basically.
Yeah. There's another bit of product placement here that like is definitely somebody paid for this somehow, but as they're putting all the banana stuff into the vat, Bobby, the bartender, has like this package of Organica cookies.
Oh yeah.
And he's just like, and it's label out towards the camera. And he's just like, boy, these Organica cookies are sure good.
Yeah, he's like, wow, these are actually really good.
Yeah. It's like, I'm assuming like at the time they were some brand of like banana, cookies made just from bananas and nuts or something like that.
Sure.
I couldn't find them online. The only thing I could find was like, there is a company called Organica right now that produces clothing from purely banana, like banana waste. So...
So somebody's friend owned that company, and he was like, "I'll give you $10,000 if you just work my cookies into the mix."
Right? Yeah,
it's 100% what happened. Yeah, it's really funny. And then the funny part is they show like at least a dozen scenes of little, snowball hand puppets exploding with squibs, and it's just funny. It's just rapid fire explosions, and then. Jack finds all of his like mangled babies, and he has this like one scene where the one's like all mangled in his hands and it dies in his hands, and he has like one single tear, and he's like, "You killed my family." He's a fucking serial killer that just like, these were just chunks of him. Now he thinks of them as his family. It's so bonkers.
It's just being stupid.
Yeah. Then he comes in and so quickly and unceremoniously kills Bobby and the Colonel. And they're done. They're out of the movie. Just kills them in 2 seconds.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I did want to point out that while we're having this gremlin party, there is one of the little snowballs has a mohawk made out of icicles. And so it's just...
it's just gremlin references.
Yeah. I mean... Technically, that's Liberty Spikes, but you know what I mean.
Sure, of course. So he comes in and he traps Anne, because Anne's the one who killed all his babies. So he really has this problem with Anne even more than Sam now. And he forms this like ice. It's really ultimately like an Iron Maiden type of thing, where he like forms a box around her, puts a bunch of ice spikes through it, and then slowly like closes it on her. And as she's about to kill her, and she kind of does like a choke on it type thing. She's like basically taunting him that she killed all of his babies. And Sam jumps in, and I can't tell, was this supposed to be like a Robin Hood Prince of Thieves reference? Because he's got a banana tied to an arrow, and you get that like shot down the arrow, almost from the arrow's point of view, looking back at the person shooting it.
Right.
And he shoots an arrow with a banana tied to it into. So he reforms Jack. So you're like, oh no, he killed Anne. He shoots him with the banana arrow, and then he explodes. And the way they did this was they created this like foam. It's just the whole place is full of like thick, dense, like almost look like some sort of soap foam, like from like a foam party kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a little bit gunkier than that. Anyway, and he's swimming through this whole room. And this is all, they have him flopping around on the ground in this room full of slimy foam. And he finds Anne, in the mess. And that's it. And the nice thing is they don't linger around. They're just like, that's kind of the end of the movie. And they're like walking away down the beach. Sam's carrying Anne, and she's like, I hate Christmas. And they walk off into the sunset, which was, but then you get these couple of really like, if you didn't think the movie was just bits and gags, they throw 2 in at the end, which the first one I really enjoyed. They kept talking about the supply ship that was going to show up the next day. They were going to wait for the supply ship. So now you get the supply ship coming, and it's 2, like, I guess the people who are manning the supply ship, these 2 presumably Japanese guys, and they're talking with voiceovers, like a kaiju movie.
Doing bad dub.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, you showed like zoom out from their ship, and their ship is of course a little model floating in like a bathtub. Mm-hmm. And a giant carrot, like twice the size of their ship, destroys their ship. And which of course begs the question, what happened with Jack that he is now a giant kaiju? There's no explanation for it.
Right. And why couldn't he do that before? And why
did his nose grow that big? The nose isn't water. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. It's just, again, it's just silliness to be silly. Yeah. And I read that like this was Michael Cooney's idea, that he did want to do a third one with Jackzilla. So really? Yeah, he did want to do it. Like he was willing to do it. He just like has never gotten the funding to do it. But I think like even today, you know, if you go up to him and you say, here's $5 million. Yeah. Will you make Jack Frost 3? He'll say yes.
Yeah.
He will say yes.
he both of them say yes. How in the hell? They're twins. That is why. I want to just say right now that if there is a a GoFundMe or something that comes up for that, I will contribute. And I will contribute more than I can afford. Like I will put a significant portion of my children's college fund towards
one of them isn't going to college.
Yeah, one of my children will not go to college. The stupid one, and I won't say which one it is, but the stupid one isn't going to college. I'm just kidding. But I will contribute in a big way to that. So then we do get a post. Did you watch the post credits scene?
I did, and I was just like holding on for bated breath. I was like, oh, I guess they just died.
Yeah, they just died. So basically the married couple or the engaged couple was, this all, kind of culminated on their wedding day. They ended up like running into, after Bobby and the Colonel got killed, they just ran in, like locked themselves in a freezer. And then we just forgot about them. And then Sam and Ann came with them, but they were just like, right. Oh, I guess they're dead, and left them in the freezer. And they're like, guys, we're in the freezer. And then it's just like a 30-second slow zoom onto the door of the freezer. And then the rest of the credits. It's like, so yeah, apparently they froze to death.
Yeah.
Or did they? Who knows? It's been 24 years. We haven't got the third one. Feels highly unlikely at this point.
Yeah. There's, is it just somebody just making shit up on the internet? Somebody wouldn't do that, would they?
No, if it's on the internet.
Yeah. But yeah, there's a weird like fan page for Jack Frost 3: The Last Coming, but it's not like anything.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I can't, and you can't find it anywhere else.
Yeah. Listen, if somebody was to know that there was going to be a Jack Frost 3, I think it might be me, because I've maybe saw Jack Frost, the original Jack Frost. I'm going to say if we did at the end of our life, if there was a Spotify wrap up, right, of movies, and you know how they say you're in the top percentile of, listening to Steely Dan or whatever the fuck you listen to, right? I would be in the top 0.00001% of Jack Frost's watchers. Like, I don't know that there's that many people who have seen that movie more than me. So there's probably some algorithm that would tell me if there was a Jack Frost 3.
Surely.
I want to believe it. But maybe it'll happen. Like I said, I am willing to give up at least one of my children, maybe both of their college educations, for this. So.
It's going to be one of those things where you just have to scrape together a whole bunch of money and, go find Michael Cooney before he dies, wherever he is, and say, either sell me the rights or make the movie. I don't give a shit which.
Whichever one it is, Michael, let me know.
This is your choice.
Let's have a conversation. All right. That was, of course, from the year 2000, Jack Frost 2, Revenge of the Mutant Killer Snowman. Thanks to Anthony. He was kind to us. He gave us a fun movie to watch for our quote unquote punishment episode. Again, just as a reminder, That's a good one. Ron in the chat, great title. And Mr. Cooney, listen, Ron, this is obviously up to you, but I feel like we should give this to him if he asks for it. He just came up with Jack Frost 3: Ice Guys finish last. Or I'm sorry, Ice Guys finish first.
Yes.
Either one is it. And Ron has given you the clearance in writing in the Discord here, Mr. Cooney. That is all yours. I feel like you probably owe him, a percent, at least a point or two.
My pitch would be just to give, we can throw all of these at him. We can give him your pitch. We can give him Ron's pitch. Mine, if we're going to stick with Jackzilla, mine would just be, call it Shin Frost. And then just make it like Shin Godzilla, like a fucking really slow bureaucratic film about how to deal with a giant snowman. Yeah.
I say we go super dark, like serial killer, psychological horror, where Jack isn't doing all this paranormal stuff. They figure out a way to keep him. It's like Seven, but with Jack,
Yeah.
And he's just doing stuff just to fuck with the families and stuff. Like make it go really, really dark.
Instead of 7, it's 12. The 12 Days of Christmas.
12 Days of Christmas.
He's killing people with all the different birds.
Yeah. He's killing people with maids of milking. I don't know. I mean, that has some sleaze written right into
it. Hell yeah. That's a rub and tug. That's a rub and tug death.
Yeah, maids of milking. Yeah, and Ron, very generous of you. Ron said all he needs is about $350, which is quite generous of you. All right, guys. Once again, remember next, this week after this episode is released, keep an eye out on the social media because you got to help us vote what our showdown topic for the month of January is going to be. It's going to be either urban legends, best movies with the worst titles, or Hungry for Horror Volume 2. So those are all some fun topics. Looking forward to it. Help us vote. Follow us on the social medias. And again, check out the Patreon over there and take advantage of the gifting feature that Steve was talking about. And, if your significant other or your friend or your whatever likes the podcast, give them a subscription to get some bonus content from us. We would appreciate it. They would appreciate it. And you know what? It's better than a fucking Amazon gift card. All right. Steve, anything else before we wrap up this son of a bitch and minisode?
No, that's about it. I guess I warn the audience things are going to get a little different the rest of the month as it usually does. Because, usually we break off and do kind of our own separate episodes just to keep recording easy so I can imagine, maybe Brian will have an episode with his kids coming up maybe, and I'll have an episode with some randos. So yeah, just be aware. Yeah. My oldest daughter has already been asking to be on, and she's 10 now, and she is starting to get into, she's the horror one, right? My oldest is the one who likes the spooky stuff. My youngest, she likes spooky stuff, but she's, she likes Harry Potter and stuff like that, but she doesn't like anything scary. Right. My oldest, she's into it. We watched while my youngest was, where the hell was she? She was somewhere. It was just me and my oldest. And we watched, she watched her first kind of quote unquote official horror movie of her life. We watched The Gate. Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah. PG-13. It's pretty mild. It's got big Goonies vibes to it, kind of thing, right? It's not a scary movie. A lot of stop motion animation, little monsters and stuff like that. She loved The Gate. Really, only one moment freaked her out. Which, if you're familiar with that movie, which I love that movie, it is the moment where the little neighbor kid gets sucked into the wall and then he bites his finger and he's got the weird little teeth. She was like, ooh, she didn't like that. That freaked her out a little bit. Everything else, all the monsters, she was super on board with. She liked it a lot. So I think we got a horror fan on our hands. So maybe I'll have her on to talk about The Gate. We'll see. Sure. All right, guys, for the Halloween's Forever crew, I'm Brian. And I'm just a little guy who's a snowman who's got a mohawk, and I'm just looking for some daiquiris. I thought you were just going to say, and I'm a banana. Well, I'm a banana. All right, see you later. Bye, guys. Bye. 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 Bye.